Sorry about that, everyone. That was a little bit strange. Got kicked out. YouTube crashed on me. All right, so we're going to get started. Everyone will filter back in. Some technical difficulties to start off with. Everyone can still hear me, I hope. So we are going to put in the first list. Take a look at it. It's back. Yep. Fortunately, YouTube crashed on me. All right, so the list in the live chat here is going to be the first list that we're going to be taking a look at. For those that are going to be asking, you know what list you are. I won't call out anyone's name on any of these ones here. So, easiest way for me to do this is to link the list to everyone so you can take a look at it in the chat so that I don't have to read it off in the list here. But from the looks of this list, it's going to be centered around a little bit of a blob squad, a Crusader Squad, which, you know, with the new supplement, that's kind of a cool little theme, right? We've talked about in some of our videos and our hot take about how it's very difficult to get to those power fists in the blob squad by taking that large squad. And realistically, these guys are insane for the damage output that they can do. So it looks like you have a few upgrades in the list itself. So you have your Sword of Judgment with the Champion, the Feast, and the Fist of Balthus, as well as your Power Fist on that Crusader Squad. So he's rocking in at a 411 points. So it's pretty significant on that. We got that Crusader Squad and Infiltrator Squad to fill out your troops. Looking at the rest of the list, you're going to be having your Terminator Assault Squad, which is going to be another one of your heavy hitters, which those are always still good, even with Uphold. You definitely want to be able to take those. It looks like you have a split of your Thunderhammer and Lightning Claws there, so you're going to have a little bit of dual duty with those. And to round them out, I am going to assume that you're going to put them in your Land Raider Crusader that you have also on your list here. So we have a fun new stratagem, right? Where you can move your Land Raider, get out, move again, charge, and that'll be good. We had a technical hiccup. Sorry about that. So the list itself also has a couple of ranged options in our Redemptors, which is going to be very important. And then you have it supporting with your Tech Marine there, so you know a little bit more additional shots on those with that +1 ballistic skill on one of those. Your Chaplain Grimaldus, I would hope, is going to be going with your Crusader Squad, and the Captain going with your Terminator Assault Squad. So, initial thoughts. You have several rock units in this list that are extremely dangerous to your opponent. Now, how I would play this initially is going to have your Crusader Squad charged down the middle of the board so that they can take the center objective, if there is one, or get your Oath of Moments. That's going to be pretty critical. It's going to draw the attention of your opponent, and they're going to take quite a few shots. So you definitely need Grimaldus with him. I would highly recommend, if you can find the points somewhere in here, that you try and find some way to fit in some company veterans, because Grimaldus is going to get sniped. Once his servitors go down, your orders are going to go down as well, and you're going to be giving up 12 points of assassination currently, right now, without it. Now, this list SP is one of my sword patrons. It's for competitive play. Now, what I would say for this is I would say probably it's going to be semi-competitive. The reason is you're going to be rocking a lot of heavy rock units. You have 400 plus points in your Crusader Squad. You've got almost 300 points in your Terminator Squad, and then almost 300 points in your Crusader Squad. Right. So that's half of your list in 3 units. Of that, so they get a lot more durability through the Uphold and Grimaldus, as well as being able to get across the board easier with that 5++ with your Lander or Crusader and get that charge off. But a good list that if you have a competitive opponent, especially in a tournament, you're going to have a lot of anti-vehicle coming at you, a lot of Melta, Dark Lances, that type of thing, that potentially could take out that Land Raider right away. Excuse me. Now, the other thing is you have to see what we have list here. Excuse me. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Only 11 units in the list. So most competitive lists are between 12 and 15 units, separate units that you have on the board. Even more if you're looking at things like Harlequins or obviously Drukari, even Admech can put out quite a few more units than you can. So that's something to think about there. Beyond the 3 rock units, the Redemptors are going to be very high priority. So 5 units that your opponent really has to take out to kind of stop your list in its tracks. So if your opponent can't deal with the rock nature of the list, you'll do well. If they can, you're going to lose pretty quick. So it's just something to think about on that. I think you perhaps swung a little bit heavy on your rock. I understand the draw of the Land Raider Crusader and the Terminators. It's a huge draw. Get that advance and charge essentially through that. But most of your list is revolving around characters and those rock lists. And you don't have a whole lot of anything else support in the list. So something to think about. You can overwhelm an unprepared opponent. But we'll move on to the next one. Let me get you the links here. You have another list. All right, the next list is going up. So note, as far as I am aware, all of these lists are built for competitive play. None of the Patreons mentioned that they were going to be for anything else. So just take that with the grain of salt there. All right, going over this list, we have all of our special characters in the list, supported by Assault Intercessors and Primaris Crusader Squad. Very similar setup as the previous list for the Crusader Squad, so 411 points. We got the Power Fists, Fist of Balthus on one of those. This one does not have the Champion of the Feast or our Sword of Judgment, though. Redemptor Dreadnoughts as well. And then this one actually utilizes Sword Brethren and Vanguard Veterans. And then we have an Attack Bike Squad to round it up. All right, so this one's a little bit more balanced. Not as many rock units. You still have a lot of assassination points on the board until they fac it. Again, Grimaldus is going to give up those. Now, kind of see what you're going to be doing here. One of your Assault Intercessors is going to be the Bones of Mordred, an extra little durability buff, or mortal wound buff there. Give it a little more oomph on it. Crusader Squad, again, is going to charge down the center of the board and it's going to do a lot of damage if it hits. Now, I can't stress it enough. This 20-man squad is going to be devastating. Now, we can take them in smaller squads. It's still above the 10 mark. to save some points. So you're maxing out on your neophytes to kind of get above that mark and just kill those off before you get down to your initiates to save some points to make it as point efficient as possible. But to do that, I think you are going to hit the blast wall. That's going to be kind of making it a little bit not as efficient, in my opinion. So this one, in this case, is a 20-man squad, so you don't have to really worry about that. So talking about our veteran squads, VV squads, have you let them into your heart yet? So this one's a standard Lightning Claw Vanguard veteran squad. It's going to be the sergeant, and it's going to be rocking the Champion of the Feast, Relic Blade, and the Sword of Judgment. Now, I would recommend you save yourself some points on that Relic Blade and go down to a Power Sword so you can upgrade the Power Sword to the Sword of Judgment anyway. You're going to save yourself points. Does the same thing. You're going to get the same upgrade. Might as well save yourself the extra 5 points. Might as well save yourself the extra 5 points. You can fit it in there somewhere. I'm sure you can make some adjustments. The attack bike, -1 damage, Crux Obsidian, which is a good choice there. They'll get you some Melta. Normally, I would say to split them up into 2 separate units to give you 2 different units to go across the board and alternate portions of the board there. But with the Crux Obsidian, I think that's a better choice there. But you still only are going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11 units here. So you're still a little thin, like the previous list, on how many units that you're going to have on the board. So that's going to be something you have to worry about. That's competitively, you need extra units. It's all about board control. Yes, you want to be fast. You want to be able to have the ability to get across the board and do what you need to do and have units that are big enough to be able to attack your opponent and survive, be durable. That's all important. But you need to be able to get to all of those different objectives as well. So board control is important. You need trading pieces. Most people use their troops to trade. That's not always the best thing to do, right? You know, we do have access to be able to give some of our core infantry obsidian or objective secured, so that'll be definitely helpful in that case. But you're still going to be having that issue. My area where I kind of feel a little bit safer is going to be 13 units separate. So that's where I kind of shoot for with the Black Templars. Anything less than that, I get a little bit uncomfortable. But overall, the list was pretty balanced. You do have firepower in the Redemptors, which is going to be important, and you got a little bit of melt support there. So now the elephant in the room, right? Everyone's probably looking at that Sword Brethren squad. So it's power swords. Now, this is one of the ways that I would do it if I were to build the Sword Brethren squad. So you have the full squad here of actually it's 8-man squad. So still pretty close. It's power swords across the board, but it has Sigmund's Seal. So as you all probably know, it's the rerolls to hit and wound for anything that you're attacking. So that will give you a little bit more oomph on the board. Now, most people think about putting the Sigmund's Seal on like Terminators or Vanguard Veterans. Well, they already have rerolls typically if you have Lightning Claws on the Vanguard Veteran, so that's kind of a waste there. And Terminators are going to pretty much obliterate anything anyway, and they have other stratagem support to help them out. So this is a good place to be able to get it. And if you use their stratagem to get exploding 6s, they're going to do even more damage. So that's a great spot for them. I actually like this this little setup here. You can make them even cheaper, add a couple more guys to it, and go cheap with your Astartes chainswords. And that would be also an effective way to use the squad, get those exploding sixes. And with the Astartes chainsword being a -1 and or potentially a -2, depending on your vow and or if you're in Assault Doctrine, they actually are semi-decent. And if you really need to, you can split them up, combat squad them at the 10-man squad to be able to do some more stuff around the board if you need to. So that's an option for you. So otherwise, pretty good list. Definitely looking forward to hearing your success with that and seeing how it does. All right, so let's go to the next one. This one has a little bit of background information that they are concerned about. All right, so the Patreon says that their main concerns are excessively geared up Sword Brethren squad. It's only 5-man and an outflanking potential with Emperor's Champion, maybe Blade Guard veterans. Eliminators are chosen based on raw anti-tank shots to points efficiency. Strictly their raw output points for anti-tank is one of the best. They have a 15-man Crusader Squad plus the Marshal and Grimaldus. Their goal is to take and secure center with oaths. The two 10-mans and Blade Guard veteran either hold the home objectives or the flanks. They say the Emperor Champion is a back and forth initial idea to outflank him. He's not needed. He's possibly thinking about upgrading to a Primaris Biker Chaplain. They say that they're going for all the toys. So, all right, so let's take a look at it here. All right, so pretty standard here. We got the Grimaldus. This is going to be common in most lists. Again, assassinate. You got to watch out for it. Got the captain with master crafted bolt rifle. Now, this is something I actually do like in my lists. Many of my lists have it. The Gravis captain that has the heavy bolt rifle. You get it in that Kill Team box set. But he also has a master crafted power sword. So he is actually capable in close combat as well. A little bit slower because of his Gravis armor, but he's a little bit more tough. So if you need him to hang around with some Redemptors or something like that, he can contribute in ranged. But he still has that close combat ability if something gets close. You got some Incursor squads and the aforementioned Crusader squads. Your Blade Guard veterans and Sword Veteran squad. You have an Attack Bike squad and a Bike squad. That's a little strange. And the Eliminators. So the Eliminators, I can see the last fusils are reasonably decent. They get you some reliable damage 3. But one thing to note, one of their core features is their camo cloak, and you're not going to get a camo cloak. Oh, apologies. My bad. I didn't put the link in. Sorry about that. Okay, quick question while I'm doing this. Donald asked, should we be taking the melee or the gun version of the squad? So I'm going to give you the most non-answer ever. I know people hate it, but it really depends on your list. If you are planning on keeping them back and just being a durable unit that your opponent has to chew through and they hate life trying to get through all of those guys sitting on an objective, take guns. If you're using it to threaten their side of the board, take their objectives and do a ton of damage, that's as a primary close combat unit, then you're going to be taking the swords. So that's how I'd answer that for you. All right, going back to that list. So Eliminator squads, I'm okay with them. They're fairly cheap. They do some damage to heavy infantry and vehicles if needed. You got your attack bite there. Again, I'm okay with that. I would prefer if they're split up. But I got to ask you, what is going on with that bike squad? Let's be honest here. Bike squads are not competitive in any way, shape, or form. And they don't do anything for this list. From what I can tell here, they are just basic armed. So I don't get their function. I would assume you're just trying to get to the other side of the board. And doing that, Outriders are similar, but do more damage because they have the Astartes chainswords and the additional attacks and are more durable. I don't know. These guys just don't do it for me. The bike squad, I honestly would take them out for something else. Now, elites are very light here. You got 2 dedicated close combat units, sort of. Your Blade Guard veteran is a close combat unit. It's a 5-man squad. You got that there. They're going to be able to handle things. But your Sword Brethren is neither full-sized and is heavily upgraded for the 1 5-man squad that you're going to be taking. So the 5-man squad is going to be shot up right away. I'll be quite frank with you. Your Sword Brethren, if you're taking them in lists, in my opinion, you need to take them in 10-man squads. The reason is, if your opponent has a lot of shooting or is more elite or has a lot of anti-mech weaponry, you're not going to combat squad them. You're going to keep them more full to be able to weather the shooting to get to your opponent. Now, the exception to that is you can combat squad them if you need to get more units on the board, obviously, for trading pieces. But just know if you upgraded that unit heavily, they're probably going to get shot pretty quickly. Of course, you're probably going to be in a uphold, so they'll get a little bit more durability, but they're not as tough and durable as a Blade Guard unit. So one of the things they're good at is being cheap. Now, a great setup is just the basic power swords. You can also just do your chain swords there. Then you're fine with doing a combat squad on them because, okay, you're taking was a 22 point unit or point per model and splitting them up, and they're a great trade piece. You can use a stratagem to explode 6 if you need to, and they can hold board. Being just chain swords, they're not going to really draw a whole lot of threat either because of they're not an elite unit. They're not full of extra points and upgrades. Now you got some durable troops here in the center. I'm okay with that. I am a firm believer that Crusader squads can be pretty good. If you want something cheap, Assault Intercessors will give you the 5-man version of basically the Crusader squad. But they're pretty durable, points efficient with the neophytes. And yeah, honestly, looking at the list, I don't see a whole lot of punch in here. I'm not afraid of it. There isn't really anything scary in the list that I'm really kind of looking out for. You do have a somewhat bigger Primaris Crusader squad in it. But again, I touched on this. If you're not taking the full 20-man squad, it's easier to chew through, and you potentially are going to lose those things. If they're getting concentrated in, a 15, 14-man squad is just not going to do it to save those bar fists. So, Emperor's Champion, I wouldn't outflank him. He needs to be with something, or else he's going to get shot as soon as you get outflanked. So, that's my opinion on that. But you got someplace to go from here. Yeah, there's just not enough damage in that list, in my opinion. I agree with you, Praetor. All right, so this one's going to be a little bit different. I have to copy and paste this one into Pastebin, so give me just 1 second. I think this is the only one that is not, so I'm going to make a link for it real quick. preparation, right? Sorry. All right. Yes, for the Emperor. Thanks again for everyone joining in, and thanks again to the Patreons for supporting our channel. We do everything we can to support the Black Templars community, whether it be hobby, lore, competitive gaming. Our Discord channel is definitely a great place to be if you are looking for some advice or just to chat about different things in Black Templar. It's been a great run this past year. So as mentioned earlier, we have a ton of videos that are just waiting to be edited, already recorded, and you're going to be getting a ton of stuff from us. So it's pretty cool. All right, so now we got that list all pulled up for you. Let's take a look at it. So we got the 2 HQs in this one. Primaris Champion on the bike. It looks like we're going to be Divine Protection, Fervent Acclamation to give the switched up vow. So I assume you're going to be doing a hold on that. Tannhauser's Bones and Wise Orator. So this is going to be one of the Primaris bikers that's going to be pretty durable. You can send him out to support your units, and he will survive a whole lot of shooting if he's out in the open. Obviously, you don't want to try and do that if possible, but he can get around to different units, give him the extra 5+, feel no pain, switch some vows for critical moments. It does a great job. Chaplain and Terminator armor is Iron Resolve, Canticle of Hate. So I am going to assume that there's going to be some Terminators in here. So we're going to take a look here. Yep, we have Terminator Assault Squad. So looks like the plan is to deep strike these suckers onto the board. Now, deep strike isn't necessarily a terrible idea in some cases, but you have to be very careful about a savvy opponent screening you from important units. Now, that could be bubble wrap units, trade units that they're just going to put in the way, and they're going to have to charge a stupid rinky-dink 5-man unit of maybe racks, something stupid. You know, they're going to be spending your 300-point Terminator Assault Squad on a 70-point unit. You also have to worry about them just spreading out across the board. You know, maybe you just can't even get into their deployment zone. So that's something to think about. The Vanguard Veteran Squad. It's a pretty big squad here. We got a range of weaponry. It's like all of them have storm shields, so that's what I would do here. I'm not sure why the range of the weaponry here. It's going to make your rolling a lot slower in a game. If you're not playing a tournament, that's not necessarily an issue. But when you have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different weapons in your unit, it's going to be a lot slower to go through your rolling, and it's going to take up a lot of time. If you're in a tournament setting, that's going to eat up all of that. From experience, you typically want to have 2, maybe 3 at most rounds of rolling per unit just to speed things up. You have an Ironclad, the Hurricane Bolter. Presumably you're going to be using that to advance up the board to get to the center objectives and hold that. Another Dreadnought with a Twin Las. We have a small Crusader Squad. So looks like this one is going to be the Firstborn Crusader Squad, Intercessor Squad, and Assault Intercessor Squad. So troops are pretty basic there. Nothing fancy with any of the new stuff there, but that's not a bad thing. Keep them cheap. You can do some stuff. Let's see. We have their attack bikes with the Meltas and a couple of land speeders and the Whirlwind. Whirlwind is a very hit or miss on its usefulness, in my opinion. I don't particularly take them in my lists, but there's a lot of tournament players that swear by them, winning the game for them or doing nothing. So their stratagem obviously is, able to be game swinging, be able to strike last and prevent Overwatch. That could be a huge thing for you. And you do have some support with those multi-meltas. Now, my impression on the list is you got 2 units that can do some heavy damage. The rest of them are pretty thin on what they can do. Obviously, your multi-melters are pretty dangerous. They're going to be a pretty high priority for your opponent. You're going to be taking them out pretty quick. Uphold will keep them up a little bit longer. But honestly, right now, you're not utilizing any of the cool things that we can do in the codex other than Tannhauser's bones on that. I feel there's a little bit more opportunity here. You could get some more close combat power. You did take some dreadnoughts on here. I'm going to assume that's because of models that are available. If you don't have them, Redemptors are plainly superior in every way on those. And fortunately, there's going to be a massive amount of Redemptors going to be going on eBay. If they aren't already, they're going to be. You can get them pretty dirtball cheap, I would assume. They're going to be superior. I'll give you some plasma in the list so that you can take out some elite infantry. Because right now, you have your Terminator Assault Squad and your Vanguard veterans. And once those go down, your list is going to fall apart, unfortunately. You do have more units than the other lists are, so that's great news. You can hold the board a little bit better. You do have those trading units and your troops on those. But again, the theme is it's not very scary. So, looks like paused. Let's see here. Got a couple questions. So, Robert White. So, we do have our Patreon that we have with Implausible Nature as a Sword Brother tier. You get a free t-shirt, Implausible Nature t-shirt, as part of a sign-up bonus gift to you, as well as 1 list review personalized from me per month. And you can find the link to the Patreon if you so decide to support us down in the description. Otherwise, on our Discord, we do have the ability to post your lists, and we will comment, and many members will be able to give advice on those lists as well. All right. Another question from Alex Friend. Do you help build a basic thematic list on Patreon? What are you referring to as thematic? I do all kinds of different lists. I do have different themes I do. On my Discord, I actually did recently post a list I lovingly named as Burn the Witches that I themed around flamer weapons. So in that type of thing, that type of theme, are you looking for? Or are you looking for more for like mechanized? Or are you looking for, hey, I just want to do foot slogging, black tide? I do all kinds of different themes. All Primaris, we're going to be doing list building on the channel pretty soon. That's a very, very common question, as well as the questions of building all firstborn lists. So that's going to be one of those things that's going to be coming out real soon as well. If I were to take the Seal, Sigismund's Seal Raider, I would honestly put them on the Terminator Thunderhammer. But again, as I mentioned before, it's kind of win more because the Terminators are going to pretty much rock anything that they charge anyway. But the benefit of that is a psychological, is because you put it on your Terminators, your opponent is going to be like, oh my God, that's a huge threat. And he targeted my best unit. I can't have that. So they're going to put all of their firepower into your Terminators, which are ridiculously durable. And if you have an apothecary, potentially reviving them. So that could work in your favor. So you can use it psychologically defensively as well as offensively if you need to. Uh, they're great for taking out knights and really durable things too. So, all right, Outriders, land speeders. Are any of these good? Okay, so with Uphold, bikes and land speeders get significantly better than they previously were. They were really held back, land speeders specifically, uh, not having an invulnerable save. Now you could get one with stratagem support, but now we get it innately. They are fast, and let me tell you, I am in love with the land speeder storm. You know, the scout one. It's so much utility for 55 points. It's stupid how cheap they are and what they do for you in battle. And giving it a 5+ invulnerable save is ridiculous. Almost one of the best units in the Codex now for that role. Now, the other land speeders and the Primaris ones are still, in my opinion, other than the basic multi-melta land speeder, are a little bit expensive for what you get. Now, I want to love the Typhoon and the Tornado versions of that, but it's just a little bit spendy for what you get. The basic multi-melta is going to be better. You can zoom in on to the other side of the board. It's only 10 more points than the multi-melta attack bike, but you have fly, so you can move over the ruins. You can hide a little bit easier. You can get exactly where you need to without issue, and throw down those multi-meltas. So 70 points is a pretty good deal for that. Now, if you're not really concerned about maneuvering around ruins, you could take the attack bites for the 10-point savings, and they're going to be good. Outriders. Here's my thing. In a competitive environment, especially tournament based, there's ruins all over the place. The bases of the Outriders are quite large, right? You know, we all know that they're chonky boys. They take up a lot of space. The unit is 3-man big. Try getting around ruins effectively with an Outrider. It's not going to be very easy. If you have a flat board without ruins, a lot better. You know, so if you're at home, beer and pretzels, that type of thing, or maybe your game store, you can set up the terrain. They'll be a lot better for you. But with that being said, their damage output isn't all that great without having character support. So, great models. I'd love to use them. But when you're looking at 19 close combat units, if you get the charge, and then, you know, they're bolter shots, I mean, they don't really do a whole lot for the 150 points that you're paying when you can get something like Hellblasters that do tons more damage for the same points. That's just my opinion. They are fairly durable. They can hold ground pretty well if you can get them there around the ruins. But in my opinion, I don't take them, honestly, right now. So, all right, let's see. We got 2 more lists, so we'll take a look at those. Yeah, I love land speeders. I won't lie. In 7th edition, I built a land speeder list, and I fielded 6 land speeder storms, and then I believe it was 9 typhoons, and it was ridiculous. I loved it. Grimaldus is going to be viable. He does a lot for you on the battlefield. It's just going to be, in my opinion, essential to take those company veterans so they can absorb some shots for Grimaldus to prevent him from being targeted at all times via their rule, bodyguard special rule, until you get into the thick of things. You know, if he's just chilling, next to his Crusader Squad, you can get sniped out, and that's going to be a ton of points. Now, do I think that they're going to change him to not count as 12 assassinate points? If I'm being honest with myself, I don't think they're going to change it. I think they're going to keep it at 12 victory points. Reason is they didn't change Celestine, so she gives up the 9 with her unit. And they've gone through several FAQ rounds so far with that. So I think it's just something that we're going to have to deal with in our list building. Does that still make him, or does that make him unplayable? Absolutely not. I think he's totally playable. You just need to take some company veterans. All right, so next list here. Okay, so this one also had some background. Looks like the Jump Chaplain's going to be taken along with the Vanguard veterans to kill stuff. The Blade Guard veterans hold center with Apothecaries for the oaths. Company veterans protects Grimaldus, who runs with the Primaris Crusaders to hold other objectives. Bike Chaplain goes smash, fills in holes, ties up units, helps out when needed. And else is pretty straightforward. Let's see. Okay, now we're taking a look here. So I probably should get the right list. Okay, so yep, like you mentioned, you got Grimaldus with your company veterans. That's going to be huge there. This one's a little bit larger squad. It's okay that one of them doesn't have a storm shield on that. Just keep him cheap. Use a Blade of Wounds on that. But it'll keep your opponent from targeting him and saving yourself some victory points on that. You want to do everything you can to prevent that if possible. And even just a basic company veteran squad with a Astartes chainswords and storm shields are only 48 points. And who doesn't have 48 points to fit in the squad? It's pretty easy to get them in there. Infiltrator squad with the Helix Gauntlet. Now that's been something that's been in a few lists now, and I haven't really talked about it. These guys are really, really good. We've had many videos about these guys in the past in 9th edition about how good they can be. They are so much even more better now with Uphold. It's just crazy. Like 130 points for this unit is just stupid. Now, would I take more than one? No, but they're a great home field objective holder. Maybe you need to take the center right off the bat if you're, concerned about your opponent getting there first. Get them in cover, so out of line of sight, but still potentially in the range of the objective. I mean, because we still can get out of line of sight if you take Uphold. But these are amazing units. Smokescreen and transhuman them, and now they get a baby transhuman, so maybe potentially you don't even need to use that. You got the Crusader Squad here, the 10-man. So it looks like it's going to be the main one that your Grimaldus is going to be walking around with. Again, I mentioned in the previous streams here that the smaller Crusader squads, if you're going to be using it as a close combat unit, you might want to try and make them a little bit bigger if possible, especially if you're going to give them character support. They're still going to do quite a bit of damage when they hit, but they're easier to eliminate. And especially if you're going to be putting upgrades in like the Fist of Balthus like you did, and you're going to get your Power Fist there and Sword of Judgment, you only have 10-man squad here. They're going to be much, much easier to take out, and your opponent's going to be putting some shots into those guys to take them out, and it's going to be much easier to do that. Fortunately, you probably are taking Uphold. They're not durable. That's the theme here. Our lists are a lot more durable, but it concerns me putting in so many upgrades into a 10-man unit. I would consider not doing that if that were me. Got your Blade Guard veteran squad here. 5-man it looks like, with some Neo Volkites. No, not bad. Let's see. Other than that, looks pretty standard on those. You got the Icon of Hyman there. Got some durability. I love that icon. Many of you on the Discord has seen me putting out some lists and talking about the Centurions. That's a great place for the icon. Blade Guard also. Ignoring the AP 1 and 2 is going to be huge. So that pretty much everything else is going to be on the invul. So that increases their durability insane amounts. Got your Redemptors. And then look at your Vanguard Veterans. So this is our, Alex and I's preferred setup for these. It gives you a little bit duality with the types of units that you're going after. Thunderhammers, Lightning Claws, and your Chain Swords there. The Chain Swords obviously are going to be your Blade of Wounds until the Lightning Claws and the Thunderhammers get to where you need to. Gives you the option to be able to take out elite and or vehicles if need be, or take out your infantry if you need to. You can also combat squad them if you need to, split them, and you have multiple fast units across the board. And even better, let's see here. You have Fervent Acclamation on Grimaldus, which is a huge thing. So for those that have not seen or heard, if you use Fervent Acclamation on a fast unit on first turn, if you're facing a Zerker, you essentially give yourself advance and charge. So what you're going to want to do is you could do it on a biker squad. You could do it on the Vanguard Veteran. That's typically the squad that you'll do it on. You deploy them up. You want to try and get them behind obscuring terrain, typically, so they don't get shot up if you don't get the first turn. But you'll pop your Fervent Acclamation, put them into Abhor the Witch, if you're, again, facing even just a single one. And then you can advance or move an extra 3 inches, which is only 0.5 inches less than the average advance roll. So you're going to be nearly there. You can, depending on where your opponent deploys, you can potentially get a first turn charge off with that or get real close. Then we finally finish off the list with Home Objective Sitters, the Devastator Squad, or Grav Cannon. Grav Cannons are pretty amazing. I love them. They're basically better heavy bolters against mech, and they have the ability to put out more firepower against horde type units. So this, in my opinion, so far is the most balanced list by far of the lists that we have seen. I would say that this is a competitive tournament list if you were to take it. My concern, again, is I would watch the upgrades on the 10-man unit. If you can squeeze a little bit more, put the points elsewhere if necessary. But putting too many eggs in one basket for a 10-man squad is kind of crazy. Now, let's see here. Let's see. We got one last one. Okay, here's the final list. Okay, so we have Chaplain Grimaldus, Helbrecht, and then we have our Chaplain on bike. You're going to see quite a few of those in Black Templars lists. Tannhauser's Bones on a primary Chaplain on a bike is super durable. They can tie up units of your opponents. They just sit there. If you have something dangerous that is in their opponent's list that you just want to stall, maybe it's Morty, maybe it's an opposing Vanguard veteran unit. These can hold up a turn or two of attacks from that unit with Tannhausers. Now, Obviously, like the Vanguard veterans are gonna overpower you in the weight of damage 1, so they're probably not gonna live that long. But maybe you're have something really nasty like a Redemptor or something like that. I mean, he can tank those guys, no problem. I really like the chaplain. I think he's got a lot of utility. I personally use mine in the list right now that I'm doing with some offensive bonuses on him, uh, giving him the ability to do some damage back, combined with Tannhauser's Bones and um, Iron Resolve. And then I'll take something like Master of Arms to give him a little bit more oomph while also being durable. But this setup is really good here. You got the Opinion of Piety, so it's going to be quick. You're going to be able to get that abhor or that deny the witch where you need it if you have that. And obviously that's going to be situational, but something useful. Grimaldus has that Fervent Acclamation, so he's going to be able to give you the option to change vows on a specific unit. And then the Psalm of Remorseless Persecution, which we are going to be doing a litany video, but sneak peek, the Psalm does the most damage increase, even more than the +1 attack, unless you are using a damage 3 weapon like Thunderhammer. Then the 1+ attack does more damage. So we have the Chonky Boy 20-man squad. We talked about that before with the Assault Intercessors. Good flanking units there. Redemptor Dreadnoughts, Vanguard Veterans, Icon of Heinemann. This one is cheap with the Astartes Chainswords. You also have the Sword Brethren unit. So these ones do have power swords on it. Sigismund's Seal. So similar to the previous list. So that's how I would kind of do it, to be able to give them some extra oomph. But I would still try and take them at 10 man if possible. The Icon of Henman are going to be more durable, but they're not going to put up very much damage on those unless you have support. Now, potentially you could have the support with the chaplain on the bike, but he doesn't have any litanies that are going to up your damage other than the Litany of Hate. So, and then you have the attack bikes. So it's a well-rounded list. You do have a scary unit in your Sword Brethren and your Primaris Crusader Squad. Your Vanguard Veterans are great for advancing and getting across the board, but they don't have any weapons. So I would try and fit in some if you can. Other than that, it's balanced. You do have a little bit few units here. Looks like you're running 11 units. So again, not very many. You want to try and have 12 or 13 if possible to give yourself a little bit of opportunity area. Your Primaris Squad is going to be right down the center. That's the best place. As much threat projection across the center of the board as possible. All the rest can support all the way around and take your flanks. So those are all the lists. I hope that was enjoyable for you all. And is there any questions out there? Mick, yes. I would love to have one. Actually, I was talking to Alex about that, is getting some of these, some bigger things. We do have our logo. Actually, maybe you can see it. I'm around right there. But blow that up and put it on a banner and hang it up. That would be kind of a cool thing. My lighting in my apartment is not so good. Unfortunately, I have to kick my kids and my wife out of the apartment when I do streams. So sometimes that makes it a little bit hard to do recording. Because my kids are 1 and 2, so they're a little bit noisy. Combat squatting is viable. You can do it with Vanguard Veterans. You can do it with your Sword Brethren. Now, with the Sword Brethren, if you take a full loadout with the fancy weapons, with maybe double thunder hammers and the double dual lightning claws and power swords. Then you can split them if you need to. But the thing with that is your opponent will kill whatever one he doesn't want to hit them easier. So combat squatting is best if you're taking them cheap or if they're all power swords, so that you have the redundancy on that. So your opponent has to make a choice on it, and they'll get that additional durability with a uphold. In my opinion, sword brethren are viable. They're one of the better ways to get additional board control, and you can take them really cheap. Even if it's just a Astartes chainsword, I mean that's pretty cheap for the amount of attacks that they can do, and they have stratagem support, so it's pretty good. When you're plumping up your unit count, a good way of doing that is if you're taking something like maybe a land speeder storm. You got an extra 55 extra points, take it. You know, a lot of times towards the end of your list, you're not going to be able to take any large squads. So even just one will help you, and then it's got that stratagem support to turn off Overwatch and give things -1 to hit. So that's a good one. Plus, it can get across the board right away to be able to claim engage on the first turn, which is pretty difficult to do right now. You know, he's obviously just has to survive, so get him behind some scurrying terrain. But otherwise, splitting your attack bikes, if you're taking attack bikes into 2 different squads, so singles or doubles if you're going to take 4 of them. Most of my lists, I'll take 2 attack bikes and I'll do them 2 separate squads. Another way of doing it is taking a couple of cheaper Blade Guard Veteran squads, 3-mans. I do that sometimes just to get a couple of units up. A 105 unit point unit that's pretty durable, can go up the flanks. They're really annoying for your opponent to kill because they're durable and they have enough oomph to kill small units. So they're a staple in a lot of my lists as well, the smaller squads. Now, you can also count characters as unit counts, but I typically do not because they do not act in the same fashion as units like Drukhari, where their HQs are just murder machines that can operate by themselves on the board. Now, we do have the Slaplin that has that capability, and we can turn our captain into a similar captain on a bike in a similar situation, doing a pretty good damage on those. But we still want those buffs. You know, ultimately, we're Space Marines. One of the good things that we have is aura buffs. We want to make sure that we're continuing to give those out. So we don't typically have our units operating by themselves. But with Tannhauser Bones, we have the ability to do that. So that's something that we can now really count on in HQ to really be his own unit, buffing if needed, and just get in there and tie things up, smack some things. Mine, like I touched on, is going to take Mantra of Strength, Tannhauser's Bones. I'll go Heir of Sigismund, because he'll be my warlord. So then I'll take, I think it's Iron Resolve to give him the +1 wound, or maybe it's toughness. And then the 6+ Feel No Pain on himself. And then I'll take Master of Arms to give him Fight First in case he is going into something that has fights first so they can attack at the same time. And then we'll give him the extra attack there. So the way I run it with that, he's Strength 7, 7 attacks. You're going to be damaged 1 on everything on him. He gets a Feel No Pain. He's got 8 wounds, 6 toughness. So he's pretty durable. So yeah, so those some different ways that you can upgrade your unit counts. So I think the way forward is we can do some of these alternative builds. Maybe MSU with transports that's viable. Taking cheaper units instead of the bigger, bulkier, heavy duty, foot slogging aura party units. You can still do those other lists, but With Uphold, you have the ability to give all of those little units a little bit more durability to kind of play around the board and get that board control. That's really critical. Board control is critical. Now, there's a lot of things about being close combat army, but really you only need 2 or 3 units to be able to do that effectively. Rights of War is always useful. I think it's less needed now because we have the stratagem that can actually give one of our core units that objective secured. Forgive me, I forget the name of it. Still learning all the new names. So, but that one's going to be kind of a good way to get something objective secured critically when you need it, and then you can just devout push them directly onto that objective, take it from your opponent if necessary. But Rights of War is still useful. So if you feel like you have an extra HQ unit, go ahead and take it. So it's never a bad take. It's one of the best ones in the book. Give it a few more moments and then get a few more questions if you have them, and then I'll let you go for the day. I have a free day, so actually I'm going to start building all of my boxes. I have 3 boxes worth of stuff, so I got to start building. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be doing this monthly again for all of our sword brethren, and I'm going to try and do more streams more regularly because I just like interacting with the community, getting your questions, chatting about Black Templars, right? That's one of our favorite armies. That's why we're here. There's other Discords out there that do the Black Templars, but I like to gather everyone of all stripes. Obviously, I think from a competitive mindset, but I like playing the little themes. I like building mechanized armies. I love, like my Burn the Witch list. That's just fun. There's so many options now, so many different little combos that we can do, and I think a lot of them are going to be competitive. So it's going to be great to be able to get out there. I have a tournament that is going to be going on in the 19th of November, the Renegade Open. So I am hoping that Games Workshop allows us to use the new rules by releasing the rest of them, and it's legal in that tournament. Otherwise, I may not attend it because I got all these new rules. I want to use them, so I don't want to use old rules. So hopefully we get them in the beginning of November so I can play the new stuff. Yes, there is a Discord. It's going to be in the description, but let me get it here for you real quick. I'll post it in here. Yeah, it's in the link. It's not letting me post it. It's weird. So, all right. Well, I think I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for joining me. It was fun. I love talking about lists. List building is kind of my thing, so I love talking about differing lists and thinking outside the box and seeing what people have for ideas. I kind of like the surprise of not looking at the lists. I've had these lists available for a while, but I held off looking at them because I want to be able to see them and be a little bit surprised. Do I ever use a flyer? I typically don't, but Alex has received a few lists from me with flyers in them semi-recently. I've talked about them, and I think they're a little bit more viable now, so you might see some lists with them going forward. I won't lie, I kind of like the flyers. I want to use them again, so I'm going to try and make it happen. All right. Thanks again to all my Patreons. Thanks again to the community and everyone that came and stopped by and watched. We are going to end it here, and you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks for coming out and having some fun with us, and crusade on.